Joining us in the Coors Side Seats, founder, CEO, president of the AEW, it's Tony Khan. Tony, great to have you on the show. And Tony, we have had Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, so a couple of Canadians, and then Jon Moxley on the program, who's married to a Canadian. So lots of Canadian connections there. And Moxley and his wife, Renee Paquette, announced they're expecting tonight on Dynamite. Very exciting. I guess my question to you, my friend, is, I know it's Canada, we're right next door to you, but how important is it for your sport to have a big international identity?
It's a huge, huge part of our company's plan. You know, I'd like to be able to bring the company there, and I think we can talk more about that. The pandemic's limited our travel, but being exposed outside of America, it's huge for us, and our partnership with TSN is a huge part of AEW's international blueprint. We have a great partnership with you guys at TSN, and we have a great partnership with the folks at ITV in England, and a lot of other great partnerships outside of the U.S. So I know our American partnership, the TNT branding, is all over the ring apron, and it's all over the turnbuckles and things like that. But you at TSN are also really great partners for us, and we have a great people from Canada in the company. You know, with Kenny Omega, with Chris Jericho. And Renee is like part of the AEW family, and great news tonight that Jon and Renee are expecting. That is the greatest news we've ever announced on AEW Dynamite.
Speaking of Canada, once this pandemic is a distant memory and we've gotten somewhat back to normal and the border reopens, are you planning a cross-Canada tour? What are your plans for Canada?
That we've had plans to come to Canada. We were actually supposed to be coming to Toronto this past summer, and the pandemic derailed those plans. We weren't able to travel outside of America. We've been based in Florida for many months now, and I'm really excited to eventually bring our live show to Canada. We had a plan to come to Toronto this past summer, and I can't wait to come. Toronto's very near and dear to my family. My family, my dad owns the Four Seasons in Toronto, and I've spent a lot of time there. It's one of my favorite cities. And I love coming up to Canada, and I've spent a ton of time in Ontario in particular, but we have wrestlers with a great tradition in Alberta, in Calgary. We have wrestlers with great tradition in Winnipeg, and I'd love to come and tour Canada. Hopefully, it will be able to do it next year.
Yeah.
Tony, we have heard that you have an almost photographic memory when it comes to wrestling matches. So I'm going to put you on the spot, my friend. What would be Tony Khan's favorite match that included a Canadian wrestler?
Favorite match that included a Canadian wrestler would have to be probably Chris Jericho against the Ultimo Dragon from July 7th in 1995. The match took place in Japan, and it exposed me to Chris Jericho. And Chris Jericho has been such a huge part of AEW. He's been such a huge part of my life. Before I was involved in the wrestling business, when I was a fan, Chris was the first ever AEW champion, and that's the first time I ever saw Chris. It was really before Chris caught on in America. So I would have to go with Chris Jericho versus Ultimo Dragon. It's a match that opened a lot of doors for Chris. It helped him get his job in ECW, and it helped him get a job in WCW. And in a very roundabout way, 20-something years later, it helped him get a job here in AEW.
I've never spoken to someone with a photographic memory, so is it just for wrestling or is it for everything?
Sports statistics. I've always loved sports statistics. I've worked in football in England and in America, in the Premier League and in the NFL, and I've always loved sports stats, wrestling matches. Wrestling's always been pretty much my favorite thing in the world, but I love sports stats and all kinds of numbers.
Okay, it's good to bring you on Trivia Night. So AEW's been on TSN since Dynamite debuted last year. You must know, because of your connections to our country, the history of pro wrestling on TSN.
Of course, yeah. TSN's got an amazing history of pro wrestling, and when I was a kid, and the Monday Night Wars were the biggest story in wrestling and one of the biggest stories in all of sports and TV, TSN was at the forefront of it. And in addition to the great wrestling shows that have aired on TSN in the past, I know I've seen great interviews on TSN as well. This probably isn't as controversial as some of the interviews that Michael did with the WWF stars many years ago, but this is very pleasant, and I'd like to keep a pleasant rapport with you guys. So it's a great history of wrestling on TSN, and when I first started talking to you guys about bringing wrestling back to TSN, over a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, it was my very first choice for a place to be our Canadian home, to be our Canadian TV partner, and I'm just really glad to work with you guys.
Tony, we're thrilled to work with you too, and it's great to meet you, albeit virtually. Hopefully we can bring you in studio in person sometime soon when this all returns to normal. But congratulations on all the success in AEW and continued success on Dynamite on TSN, and have a great rest of the year and a happy new year too. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, guys. I can't wait to come up there and see you in person.
I like Tony.
Good dude.